Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today we are going to talk about Wemby continuing the Spurs hot start at 5-0 after this Miami Heat victory on Thursday night. We're going to talk about the Bucks hot start. We're going to talk about Orlando's offense and their continued struggles even after a win tonight against Charlotte. We'll talk about Austin Reaves. We might talk about the Pelicans. We're going to do a bit of a zoom around the NBA over the course of this show. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What is this going to be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. Bryce, what's going on, buddy? Happy Halloween.
I'll save that for Ranny. I'm not much of a Halloween person. She's had decorations on the porch for a month. We'll leave them on for another 2 months. She's all about it. So her and the kids will be going to her family's tomorrow night or tonight, depending on when you're listening to this on Friday. I have a football game that is 4 hours away, bus ride. So that will be tremendous. But honestly, Sam, I would rather be on that bus than celebrating, quote unquote, Halloween.
Yeah, my wife and I, the Oasis concert here in Melbourne is tonight. So my wife and I are going. That's how we're celebrating Halloween. We're going to see two British men shout on stage for a while. So it's going to be glorious. Okay. So we just finished, as the time of this recording, probably 5-7 minutes ago, the San Antonio Spurs beating the Miami Heat 107-101. Spurs are now 5-0 this season. They honestly, I don't know if they look like the best team in the league, but they're certainly among the elite teams that I've seen, given how good they are on both offense and defense right now. Victor Wembanyama, again tonight, just completely absurd. 27 points, 18 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 blocks, completely dominated the game on the glass, I thought, tonight. Like, there was just never a chance anybody else was getting a rebound, it felt like, when he was in the game. Offensively, again, was like relatively inefficient, like only shot 43% from the field, but gets to the line, 8 times in this game. It felt like the worst game he's played to me overall so far this year, having watched all of their games. And he still went for 27, 18, 6, and 5. Like, what are we doing?
To your point, Sam, you know who led the NBA in net rating coming into tonight? The San Antonio Spurs. It is the Spurs. Now, I don't know how those numbers have changed. Obviously, Oklahoma City played tonight as well. They were 4th, a little bit behind San Antonio, but just to the San Antonio point, top 5 in offensive rating coming into the night, 2nd in defensive rating. I'm getting extremely excited about what they could be on the defensive end. And I know I will carry the receipts now. I know people will come at me because I took the under on San Antonio, and that looks like a very bad decision right now. And I get it, but that will not stop me from showing them love when they deserve it. Steph Castle is awesome on the defensive end. He is awesome. And we knew he was going to be good coming into his rookie year. But I made a note from a couple of games ago that I watched where he comes over and has a low man rim protection that you just don't see a lot of guards capable of making. And he just has the size and physicality to do it, along with being able to guard at the point of attack. He had a bunch of disruption in the game tonight in the passing lanes. And Dylan Harper is so far along as a rookie guard. Yeah. Just in general, Sam, but specifically on the defensive end, he continues to impress me so much on the defensive end. And I know we want to talk about Wemby, but I really wanted to shout out those two guys because as I watch them and just think about what this team could be building moving forward, I also want to talk about Devin Vassell at some point. But the infrastructure defensively of starting with Wemby and then pairing him with potentially what those two guys could be on the perimeter with him is really exciting for that organization.
Look, to me, this is the story of the NBA so far this season. is the San Antonio Spurs, like undeniably. Steph Castle is a huge part of that. And we'll talk about Wemby later, but like Steph Castle going for 21, 6 and 8 tonight with 4 steals and only 2 turnovers. He did make 2 of 4 from 3. You know, that's going to happen sometimes. Sometimes it won't happen for him with the jumper right now, but it's everything else he brings to the table. In the third quarter, when this thing was 59-58 to start, he just kind of completely took over with his energy. I felt like, you know, he has those 9 points in the first 8 minutes of the third quarter. He has the huge, you know, pick 6, if I remember correctly, to start the quarter, or, you know, kind of early on in the quarter. And then has a nice little drive and finish right around like maybe the 5-minute left mark in the third quarter. And then has like a pretty nasty little floater as well to get up to that 9-point mark in 8 minutes. And it's just like, well, shit, if this guy is just like fully capable of getting to his spots whenever he wants, and he does it in such a interesting way, and they utilize him so well by getting him on the move, getting him downhill before he catches, oftentimes, either via DHO or stampede cut or whatever you're trying to do, weaponize him out in transition where he can get that downhill head of steam. And then he has the ability to decelerate and be able to stop in the middle of the court. And he processes things so quickly. The thing that I always thought was Castle's superpower and why I ranked him so highly in the draft, I think that I was higher than, I'm sure I was higher than consensus on him. I loved him coming in, was I loved the way that he understood space and like had incredible spatial awareness of what was happening around him and just found his way into dead zones of the defense. Like there was a moment tonight where Wemby like drives to the right. I think it is this bucket here that I was talking about to get to 9 in the third quarter, where Wemby like drives to his right and throws a little dump off pass. Castle had been like cutting, I think, from the opposite corner. And then he just like rotates up from the dunker spot to the middle of the lane to try and give Wemby just that little bit more space, but also to open up an angle for a dump off, knowing that Wemby could easily find him. It's just, he does all of the little things at an exceptional level. And it's why in the pre-draft process, when I talked about him, people thought, oh no, like he's probably just going to be a role player. I thought that there was real ceiling with him, which is why I ranked him as highly as I did. And he ended up being the guy that like, I thought, okay, out of the non like Sar Reed guys who were the clear upside swings of that group, right? The guys that have elite size, elite skill level, in Reed's case, just like crazy skill level and production, right? Castle was the guy I liked the most because it reminded me of Jimmy Butler in terms of the way that he maneuvered around the court to be able to find dead spaces and move off the ball, or to use his power and strength and shoulders to be able to get to his spots on the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I always loved his potential off the ball in terms of his movement and his cutting. It was just like, how much was he going to make shots? I also think we've just seen him be very confident. I'll reference the Pelicans game because that's one where I had the most notes on, but he had missed threes all game long. In that one, he was 3 of 8. So I think he hit a couple early and then he had missed like 3 or 4 in a row, something like that. But then he makes a huge dribble 3-pointer in the final 30 seconds of that game. So it's just like the confidence that's one that went into overtime with the Pelicans, and Wemby, I believe, fouled out, and him, and I believe it was Vecenie, made big time plays in the overtime to, help them win that game. And as you mentioned earlier, now on to 5-0. So he's a huge part of this. And it's not just defensively, that's where I started with it, but he's shooting over 50% from the field right now. And that's while shooting under 30% from the 3-point line on 4 attempts. But we talk all the time about getting to the free throw line. This guy's getting the free throw line almost 9 times a game. Now the percentage isn't great. I think that jumper, we've talked about this. You mentioned the ceiling. I remember you specifically asking me ceiling stuff in terms of if you gave this guy a jumper, who would have the highest ceiling, or the skill they're missing, who would have the highest ceiling. And we can start to see that with Castle already becoming a very impactful NBA player. But if he's shooting 35% from 3 and 75% from the free throw line, that's the ceiling you're talking about there whenever you talk about him.
Yeah, I think the ceiling's very high. I do think the ceiling is all-star. at some point for Steph Castle. He is a real dude. Because he is so good on both ends of the court. He is so disruptive on the defensive end right now. He is able to really get into guys' space and frustrate them. I've loved watching him play this year. You brought up Harper. Harper's done a great job. I did a video on Dylan Harper earlier this week. His game from last weekend against the Nets I thought was outstanding. Did an amazing job of running the show. I think he had like 26 and 8 in that game. Was great in transition. The half court stuff is interesting. He actually smoked a few layups tonight that I feel like he typically makes, and he still ended up 5 for 10 from the field and 2 of 5 from 3, and they were a positive when he was on the court. So outstanding game from him. It was funny, like they were a plus 24 when Julian Champagny was on the court tonight, and Champagny had 2 points and 1 of 6 from the field. But he had a huge steal late in the game.
I can't help but love Julian Champagny. So again, to put the bow on Harper, I think he's been really good here as a rookie. We kind of had this conversation in terms of our 1 weekend surprises or overreactions or takeaways or whatever. And we had the whole rookie class conversation, averaging 15, 5 and 5 essentially right now through 5 games on 48% from the field, 86% from the line. I think the San Antonio Spurs would take that. But yeah, Champagny plus 24. We know not to always look at the plus minus, but a couple steals, a block. I think he's a very good basketball player. Yeah. Knocks down threes, defends a little bit. I think he makes a lot of sense for this team. Like he just fulfills a role that they really need as a guy that has gravity at the very least and can really knock down shots when he gets it going.
Yeah, and look, let's finish on Wemby here.
Yeah.
Because I thought that Bam gave him problems tonight at times. And I thought that, Miami switching to zone there to go on that run in the fourth quarter after the Spurs had gone on a 13-0 run to get it to 87-72, I think, caused him some issues occasionally. And Miami did a really good job of giving him different looks, but Bam particularly, I thought, did a really, really good job of kind of moving him backward and stopping him from being able to get to his spots. I thought that a lot of their other smaller guys, a lot of them are just kind of fire hydrant-y, thick and strong and can get underneath him a little bit. And I thought that they did a really, really good job of frustrating him as much as you can. And yet still we're looking up and he goes for 28, 27, 18, 6 and 5. And carries them to a win, especially late. He drills a 3. He gets fouled on that play from Wiggins, where Wiggins just rakes across his arms and he flexes afterward. I thought that Wemby again, look, this is on games where I think that teams do an amazing job of taking you away and making you frustrated. And you still go for 27, 18, 6 and 5. That's almost the bigger signifier to me of a guy that is a real MVP candidate than the games like the first game against Dallas, where he goes for 40 and 15 and plays one of the best games I've ever seen in my life. Because MVP candidates have the floor games be exceptionally high, more so even than the ceiling games oftentimes. What you're getting every single night from Giannis, from Jokic, from, Shea certainly, from Luka, what you're getting. Wemby has entered their echelon to me of, I know what I'm getting every single time that this dude takes the court now. And it's against Toronto, he plays 31 minutes and goes for 24, 15 and 4. Tonight was a little bit less efficient, and he still goes 27, 18, 6 and 5. And it's just hard to stop him from getting to spots now that he's stronger. It just really is.
Yeah. And I had the same thoughts about Bam. I was watching that game, and I think it'd be a fun conversation to I haven't really workshopped it fully, but I was wondering if Bam may be the best potential defensive matchup there is for him. You know what I mean? There's enough strength there to get up in him, but enough movement to stay with Victor's movement. I actually thought Bam caused him a little bit of issues on the other end of the floor as well. Now, Victor got the best of him late in the game, but Bam bumped him a couple times and then got to a little floater and a bucket. But I just found myself going, to your point, if this is the best the league has to offer in terms of an individual defender to slow him down, and he still put up these numbers, that is scary and very impressive for Victor. And you can just see, we've talked about this going back to the Olympics and throughout his career, young career so far. He just has this understanding of the moment, and you can tell he just embraces it. The flex on Wiggins wasn't even like, I kind of loved it. It was just like, I understand who I am and what we just did and how we just finished this, and that I have you frustrated because this game is over and we're getting the win. I think he also hit a big three late there in the fourth quarter as well. But the other thing I want to highlight, and I talked about this when we talked about him a week ago, is the defensive rebounding. Not just the rebounding in general, Sam. Of the 18 tonight, 16 were defensive. And so without these all updated, I think he will open Friday morning leading the NBA in defensive rebounds per game. Not total rebound. It might be total rebounds per game as well, but definitely defensive rebounds per game. And I think that matters. Like, obviously, he can be impactful on the offensive boards, creating second chance opportunities, but the way he is just eliminating defensive possessions after the way he already eliminates defensive possession. What he did to Jaime Jaquez was unfair tonight. Jaquez throws up a little floater. Wemby erases it when nobody ever should. And then Jaquez misses the next one because Wemby's standing right there and he knows he's right there. So talk about two-way impact. We all know Wemby has it. And I love the force he continues to play with offensively, not settling for threes, but trying to go to the rim, get to the free throw line. I think tonight was actually the most threes he shot in a game all year. And no, that's not true. He shot 6 against Brooklyn, but only 5 tonight still, averaging less than 3 on the year.
Well, and the other thing, we talk about guys that change the geometry of the court defensively with Wemby, right? The bigger thing this season for him, almost for me, has been the way that he changes decision-making for guys.
Yeah.
Like the way that he speeds you up offensively when you're in the lane is so real. To your point on the Jaquez thing, like he just speeds you up knowing that you have to get shots up so much faster around him. Okay, before we move on to one quick note I want to have on the Heat, De'Aaron Fox is going to be back on this team at some point. They currently have, and look, it's going to go down a little bit after tonight, but not, catastrophically so. They had a 120.4 offensive rating coming into tonight. Like you signed De'Aaron for the offense, or you traded for De'Aaron for the offense, not for the defense. And you already have a 120 offensive rating. I'm not sure how much more he's going to elevate their offense just because it's operating at such a high level. What he does do, I think, is he's a significant upgrade on obviously the Jordan McLaughlin 15 minutes a game for sure, but he's obviously going to play way more than that. And I'm really interested to see how they go about using him in a real way, because do you try to, shorten the rotation and kind of take away some minutes from Keldon Johnson, maybe Keldon's playing 24. Do you maybe play Keldon, 15 a night, and then you take away all of the McLaughlin minutes, and, that kind of gets you to, I don't know, what is 15 and then 8, that gets you to 23. And then maybe you try and get Castle down to 32, 33, you try to get Vassell down to 32, 33. Right. And that's where you pick and pull the minutes from. Or do we see Dylan Harper, play, 18 minutes a night instead of 25? I think he's probably too good to where you can't really do that. So I kind of wonder if they try to shorten the rotation a little bit when De'Aaron comes back in, and then just kind of no McLaughlin, get rid of his 10 to 15, shorten Keldon's minutes. And then you let, Vassell, Castle, Champagny, maybe you steal a little bit from Champagny and he's not going to play 30 a night, but I'm interested to see where the minutes come from with De'Aaron and what the impact is on the defensive end, particularly because they are so big and so long right now. And the way that they rotate and scramble around the court is what makes them elite on defense outside of Wemby, because they're so aggressive because they know that Wemby is behind them. De'Aaron's not a bad defender. I don't want to sit here and say De'Aaron's a bad defender, but it changes like the geometry of their defense a little bit to have a smaller guy out there more consistently than what they have right now.
Yeah, it was my first note of the first game I watched. Their overall length and activity is very good. And even if all of those guys aren't major plus defenders, we know Castle is, and not all those guys are great at the point of attack, but they just have good length and active hands across that starting lineup.
Yeah.
So to your point, all of a sudden, and I don't want to jump past, like, this is an incredible start. As you mentioned, probably the best story in the NBA right now. I think Oklahoma City is still the best team in the NBA as they're undefeated as well after their win on Thursday night. But I find myself going, okay, here's the thing. Luke Cornett, Jeremy Sohan, Kelly Olynyk, they are also on this team and did not play any minutes tonight. You have 4 guys who all expect to play minutes in some capacity, played 0 on Thursday night. And Biyombo and McLaughlin only played 18 combined. Now you can get Wemby down from 40 to 35. Like you can bring, I think to your point though, it'd just be really interesting how Mitch Johnson handles these rotations. Are there strategic rest days for certain guys? Back-to-backs, like, hey, okay, we can afford to give De'Aaron a rest here. Hey, rookie Dylan Harper, take a rest here. You've played 8 straight games. Maybe that's how they handle it. It's not a bad thing to have. We never think that depth is a bad thing to have, but it is something to watch for in terms of chemistry, flow, all of that. Who's in the starting lineup and how do these rotations play out?
Sohan is the most interesting one to me.
I agree.
Because I kind of wonder if they decide not to upset the apple cart with their wings right now. Like I don't know. It's hard because I think that like that team seems to really like Jeremy, and I'm sure that they will want him to play. Like the players will want him to play on some level too. But like everybody out there being, something of a threat to shoot like a majority of the time, except for when Biyombo's on the court, has been a real difference maker. And I would hope that Sohan went out the summer and like really improved his shooting. We'll see if that ends up being the case, but the space is a big factor here too. And Castle at least being like comfortable shooting threes, even if they don't go in, he's really the only guy that I would want as like a questionable shooter out there, along with Harper, who like teams are still going under Harper screens a good amount of the time too, right? So the non-spacing defensive player that enters the lineup here, that's the one where I'm like really intrigued to track to see how they reintegrate Sohan. Fox will obviously have a much bigger impact than what Sohan will. I just find the Sohan situation somewhat interesting.
Yeah, I mean, this is what we talked about coming into the year was there was some spacing concerns in terms of Castle, Harper as a rookie, Sohan, and it doesn't seem like a major issue right now for them. I'm not sure what they're shooting from 3 as a team. I'm just going to pull that
up while we're talking.
Yeah, so they're actually 8th in the NBA in 3-point percentage. That does not have tonight's where they went 14 of 41, so 34%, but they're shooting 39% coming into Thursday night's game. So, one of the lower volume 3-point shooting teams for the Spurs, bottom 3, they actually uncharacteristically shot 41 on Thursday. Just be interesting to watch because I think it is a situation where certain lineups and rotations and stuff like that, the spacing could get a little bit tighter for Wemby and Castle and Fox and, them wanting to get downhill.
My last note on this game. So Bam Adebayo this year, taking 5.8 threes per game coming into tonight. He takes 13 tonight. He clearly feels quite confident shooting threes now. And I think it's a big thing for Miami's offense that he's comfortable shooting threes. It is a significant help for their spacing because when they do want to play these 2 big lineups with Ware, who's been messy this year, and with Bam, they now can run essentially, I don't want to say like fully 5 out, but you can run like 5 out, 4 around 1 get really creative action wise. How many threes coming into the season do you think Bam Adebayo, what his career high was in 3-point attempts coming into this season?
For a single game?
For a single game.
He's had some games against the Pistons, actually. I'll say 7.
That's exactly right. His career high coming into the year was 7 tonight. So
he's broke it twice. High. He's broke it.
Yeah.
Well, he shot 8 earlier this year.
Correct. Yeah. And then tonight was, a career high and almost doubled it, coming into the year, what his career high was. And he's doubling what his prior 3-point attempt rate has been as a career high throughout the course of his career as well. It's a big development for Miami, I think, if Bam can continue this. Bam, I thought, was interesting as a shot creator tonight. Some of it really worked. Some of it was a little bit messy, especially like the 3-point volume. But by and large, I think that Miami has been quite strong this year, in part because, look, there's some aberrant shooting stuff going on there. Like they're shooting 40% from 3 on 40 attempts per game, which is a massive number that I don't think will continue, just because it's very unlikely that a team will shoot 40% from 3 throughout the year. But, this was a game where they stayed tight with the Spurs, a 5-0 team, without Norman Powell tonight. And I think that's honestly like a big thing. And they're going to get Hero back relatively soon.
And Norman Powell is massive for the Miami Heat right now without Tyler Hero. So, I mean, that cannot be understated. I realize, Norman Powell may not ring true for people whenever you say Norman Powell wasn't, available for them, but that is massive because of the no Tyler Hero.
Bryce, I mean, do you know what Powell's shooting this year? 24 points per game on 48, 50, 91. Like I would hope that after last season, where Powell also was at 22 points per game on 48, 42, 80, that people recognize just how freaking good this dude is.
Well, I think people know how good he is. I just don't. I want to make sure people understood how important he is to this team.
Yeah,
essentially being their number one scoring option and generator of offense without Tyler Hero there. So.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. I think it's a very important point. And they're going to get Hero back, and that's going to be pretty fun, I think. Yeah. So, okay. We're going to hit a sponsor real quick. Shout out to our friends over at Mizzen Main. Mizzen Main is a company that even before they had started buying ads on the Game Theory podcast that I had worn previously and continue to wear. Let's be honest. The reason for that is that most dress clothes are uncomfortable. They're high maintenance. They don't feel great to wear. And on top of it, like they're just kind of frustrating to deal with. Like they take time out of your day. You have to spend time ironing them. You have to dry clean them. They're stiff fabrics. They're frustrating to deal with. And that's why Mizzen Main is just the best. They make classic menswear with performance fabrics, so it's effortless to look sharp and feel great. Mizzen Main actually invented the performance fabric dress shirt over 10 years ago. And since then, they perfected it with modern fabrics. The shirts and pants look refined, but they're stretchy, lightweight, moisture wicking, wrinkle resistant, and completely machine washable. So again, you don't have to take them out to get dry cleaned. It's just so much easier with Mizzen Main. It is a timeless style that you can invest in once and enjoy for years. That's why thousands of guys swear by Mizzen Main when they want to look great without the hassle. Mizzen Main is offering our listeners 20% off your first purchase at mizzenandmain.com. Promo code GAME20. That's MIZZEN and Main, MAIN.com. Promo code GAME20 for 20% off. Mizzenandmain.com. Promo code GAME20. And if you'd rather shop in person, you can find Mizzen and Main stores in select states. We're also going to shout out the Substack channel. Substack channel has been very busy over the course of the last little while. I did a Dylan Harper breakdown earlier this week. I did a Cedric Coward breakdown earlier this week. And today, Bryce Simon did an Alex Sarr breakdown that has gone live on the channel and on the site. So really, really fun stuff going on there. Go to the Substack, gametheorysamv.substack.com, gametheorysamv.substack.com. We do videos all the time, and it is probably the best way to try and understand what's going on in basketball that I've seen, between Bryce and I just breaking down everything that's happening with these guys from a scouting perspective, how they're adjusting to the NBA, everything like that. So Game Theory samv.substack.com. Go over there, subscribe, help us out. It's the best way you can support the show.
Real quick point on that is we don't just say, hey, this guy was awesome last night. For example, the Alex Sarr breakdown, he had huge box score numbers. And I was somewhat critical even within that game of his game and areas of growth and improvement on the offensive and defensive end. So when Sam says, just watching the game of basketball and breaking it down, we don't just say, hey, he scored 31. Here's the highlights of it. We're really getting into the nuances and details. And then also, Sam, 80,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel as of this recording on Thursday night, which is unreal to say and not something I ever thought I would be able to say.
Truly crazy. We appreciate you guys so much for subscribing, for having fun with the channel, having fun with us as we talk about basketball. I hope you're enjoying the way we talk about basketball. Hit the subscribe button if you're not already doing so. It is just such a simple, easy way. It's free. You'll know when we go live. You'll know when a new podcast episode comes up. It's just the best way for you to be able to help us out supporting the show. And man, the early season has been great. We're, consistently getting like 20,000 folks listening per episode. So we appreciate you guys so much for coming around, hanging out, and being a part of the growth over here at Game Theory Productions. So, okay, Bryce, next up, I want to talk about Milwaukee.
We probably should.
Milwaukee is now 4-1. Giannis, I think, is, if not the MVP, would be number 2 for me behind Wemby. Like it's one of those two right now. All due respect to Jokic and Shaq. Beyond that, I want to pose this to you before we talk about Ryan Rollins, who I definitely want to talk about, especially after tonight. Doc Rivers has been the top X coach in the NBA so far this season.
Okay, so
and my answer is going to stun people because I have never been much of a Doc guy, to be honest.
So I'd say there's three names in the East that have a conversation, and probably only 2 in the West. So 5.
I think right now, through 5 games, through what is that? 1/13 of the season. I think he has been the best coach in the NBA so far this year.
I think it's like 1/16. What is that?
Yeah, whatever it is. Yeah. I think you're right, actually, that it's 1/16. Shout out Bryce teacher mode right here.
I'm pretty good at that sometimes.
Yeah. I think he's been the best coach in the NBA this season. And this one against the Warriors was kind of like his, icing on the cake a little bit, because they should not have won this game. For people who don't know, Giannis did not play tonight. They got 32 from Ryan Rollins, 16 from Cole Anthony, 10 from AJ Green, 13 from Gary Trent, 17 from Miles Turner. Kuzma had 10, which was an adventure to get to 10. And Portis had 12, and Taurean Prince had 10. 8 guys score in double figures. Just make it all work around the superstar that is Ryan Rollins. The thing for me in terms of why I want to say this, and why I think, honestly, it kind of makes sense that this is happening right now for the Bucks. Doc, I think, for whatever it is, and we'll talk about the scheme stuff too, because I think Doc's been running incredible actions so far for this team and has been really good and really intentional about lineup construction, which has been really, really good by and large, with a few exceptions. But Doc has always been really good at getting teams with quote unquote lesser talent levels to exceed their talent levels. It's when you give him 2 or 3 superstars at once that I think he almost feels like he has to get them the shots that they want. And it almost comes at the expense of the team from time to time for me, where, he'll just go stagnant on offense for possession after possession after possession. when with this team where everything is revolving around the sun that is Giannis, they're being so intentional and smart about how they operate with him when he's on the court, when he's off the court, how they're attacking. They almost always have 4 spacers around Giannis. Like that is a seemingly like rule here in Milwaukee, is that if Giannis is on the court, there is nobody out there who can't shoot point blank. And frankly, like they don't really play many guys who can't shoot at all. Yeah. Like Amir Coffey doesn't really shoot it super well, but that's kind of it in terms of the guys in their rotation on a night to night basis. So I think that what they're doing right now is so smart. And again, before I get to like some specific scheme stuff, I'm just curious, like, I mean, what have you thought of the Milwaukee Bucks overall experiment so far this year to surround Giannis with just all shooting and guys that play super hard and just run around? And I think they're more athletic than what they've been previously, at least the last couple of years with Lillard. Like I've really, this has been one of my favorite teams to watch this year. And if you would have told me that coming into the year, I probably would have laughed at you.
I brought this up a little bit whenever we did our offensive defensive units, when I thought we were going to do like legitimately name 5 players.
You straight up did bring this up. No, yeah. Not that you kind of brought this up. You did bring this up as one of the best offensive units in the league
with Giannis, and then the 4 spacers in whatever capacity you wanted to bring, and then it's awesome because Ryan Rollins is playing the Giannis role tonight for them and just was absolutely incredible. I guess I just saw the vision that there was potential for this to happen. And, it's not like I'm the only one. That's why they brought in a Miles Turner, but we are a very pro AJ Green podcast. If absolutely nothing else, Taurean Prince knocks down shots. Gary Trent Jr. has gravity and knocks down shots. Bobby Portis knocks down shots. And then, guys like Cole Anthony, Amir Coffey, Gary, like those guys just play hard. I know Harris didn't play very many minutes tonight. I think he only played like 4 or something like that. But you just look at the roster, he's played 6 minutes all year, but you just look at the roster and there's just those guys that you can intermix as well. And I thought that's what you saw against the Warriors, was a team that was hungry, a team that was confident, a team that made hustle plays and the coach speak winning plays. And it's amazing when you look at their cap sheet, because Rollins makes $4 million. Gary Trent Jr. makes 3.7. Prince makes 3.3. AJ Green makes 2.3. Cole Anthony makes 2.3. Amir Coffey makes 2.3. It's just all of these guys making less than $5 million. And they found a way to get the right pieces, win on the margins, at least for right now, and make this thing work. Tonight was so impressive though. Like just the confidence, the big shots guys made. Gary Trent Jr. only had 13 points, but I thought he was in the middle of everything, including defensively. I thought he made some big plays on that end of the floor. Rollins is doing it on both ends of the floor, not just scoring it, but also on the defensive end, where I think the stat came up. He's top 5 coming into the night in deflections and steals in the NBA. Yeah. It's just, Doc has them playing at a very high level. And I even have it going back to a preseason game against the Pistons, Sam. They're getting a ton of good looks and Giannis isn't even playing. He's manufacturing or putting them in spots to manufacture really quality looks, and they have guys that can knock down shots.
Yeah, like I feel like Doc has been more intentional about how they use guys like AJ Green, because like you can say, oh, AJ Green's taking 5 shots per game or whatever. Teams don't leave him.
No,
like they are terrified to leave him alone. Like he gets guarded 26 feet from the rim, basically for entire possessions. And the Bucks really do a great job of weaponizing that. They use him all the time in like Spain actions, right? Where he's lifting and like finding his way to like one wing or the other in these lifts on these Giannis drives. And because he's so dangerous as a 3-point shooter, it just means that there's like such little help at the end of the day at the rim for Giannis when he's driving on these plays. Like these basically any inverted action with AJ Green with Giannis, it feels like they average, like, I don't know what the number is. I would bet it's over 2. Or I would bet it's like 2 points per possession, it feels like to me, every time they run an AJ Green Giannis action where AJ is like setting a screen of sorts. It just feels so lethal. And then Turner, I mean, God, we'll talk about Turner in a second too. I think when I get to players, I want to talk about Rollins first. But like the way that this team has found a way to like make everything revolve around Giannis and weaponize him. Almost like, I think they look better than they did. Like this 5-game stretch to me, I don't remember a 5-game stretch with Damian Lillard where they looked this good. I'm sure they exist, but like off the top of my head, I'm looking at it and I'm like, this is pretty incredible because they really have defended as well. And that was the thing that Lillard like kind of cost them on a little bit, was the defensive end of the court. But between the shooting, you just know that Giannis can get paint touches basically at will. You do it that way and you use his gravity either as a screener and roller, as a high post threat, or just like bringing the ball up the court or in transition, right? And then you spray out for 3 and just have shooters all over the place. And then you find a way to be more athletic on defense, which with Brook Lopez around the last 2 years, all due respect to Brook, who's been incredible for the Bucks throughout his career there, he slowed down. And you couldn't get as versatile in terms of your coverages as what you're able to do with Turner and Giannis. Like they will blitz at times. They will play at the level at times. They will play drop at times. Like they find ways to make teams uncomfortable with what they're doing defensively. And I just, it's so fun because I've always thought of Doc as this guy who isn't all that modern or flexible in terms of how he operates. And I think these first 5 games have actually been quite flexible in how he operates. And I've really loved watching it happen. But like, you know, if we're going to talk about players, like Ryan Rollins is the guy. Like Ryan Rollins has been unbelievable to start the year. I think there's a non-zero chance we look up and Ryan Rollins, like going into next season, is on some of those like top 100 lists that outlets do, where he's, you know, we're naming like the 100 best players in the league. His impact on offense and defense has just been unbelievable to start the year.
Yeah, this is a guy we talked about going back to last year that, you know, was interesting and coming into this year could, you know, fill a big role. And he's really found his footing over these last 2 games specifically. Shot the ball really well from 3 in those. We saw the pull-up game in the mid-range tonight. I feel like he just continued to pressure the paint against the Golden State Warriors. And I think it should be noted, a healthy Golden State Warriors team, a Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, Jonathan Kuminga, all of the above Golden State Warriors team on Thursday night. And Rollins just went at him. And it was really fun. If you got to watch the game live, I'm not saying you, but just people in general, Draymond and those guys tried to get in him a little bit. They tried to go at him and I think get in his head.
Because of course he started his career there. He was drafted there. They all know him.
Yeah.
So, you know, they probably felt like they could with him a little bit or screw with him in some way.
And they tried, and he just, he was having none of it and continued to hit big shot. Obviously I won't say it, the dagger 3 step back. And he was feeling it. And deservedly so. He's getting all of his flowers on Thursday night. I actually went and Googled it. I'm gonna have to watch after we finish. I have a Ryan Rollins video film review from May 5th, 2022. So this is like early days Bryce Simon NBA draft. I can't wait to watch this and see how awful my scouting was 3 years ago.
This is what's fun. I'll look where I had him while we're talking here. I know that I had Ryan Rollins in like the top 32 or 33.
Oh, okay.
Of my board. Nice. I loved him coming in because I loved the length. I loved the quickness. He was like, this is the fun thing about him. And I think he said this like in a press conference recently. Like he's always been a scorer is the thing. Like he was at Toledo, like he was this unreal scorer who could keep his dribble alive and consistently attack the rim with paint touches and could knock down shots, right? Like he just hasn't gotten a chance to do that in the NBA at this point. I mean, tonight was really his first run at it where he got a full on, we're operating around you tonight. 32 points and 8 assists with 1 turnover, shooting 13 of 21 and 5 of 7 from 3. I mean, look, like he shot it well, undeniably tonight. And, that's going to happen from time to time where guys just get hot and feel it and start to get rolling. And I guarantee you, he went in with some kind of juice tonight to play the Warriors. Like same as the Warriors were trying to get into him. I guarantee he went into this and was feeling some type of way about wanting to get his old team back. I mean, I think he's here to stay. Like the defense is too good at the end of the day. Like even remove the offense and just say he's like a, 40% 3-point shooter who, knocks down, that number on 5 attempts per game and occasionally attacks closeouts or whatever. That's still a guy that is like a borderline starting caliber player, right? And is a massive value on his contract where he's signed for next year, even at $4 million a year, and then has a player option for 4. So that's going to be out the window. It feels like right now, but I mean, dude, this is, it's kind of unbelievable. Like the fact that he was able to step in tonight and just be like, oh no, I am that guy that I can like, at times carry the offense. Like, we're going to talk about Austin Reaves later. Tonight felt Austin Reevesy. Yeah. And this is the first time where I've ever thought that about him, right? I've been a big Ryan Rollins believer. And like, I thought he was going to be a good rotation player and like a starter, basically since last season where, if you look at his last 17 games, Rollins is started, I think, 15 of them or whatever, and averaged 9 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, shot 54, 49, 76, and played like awesome defense for a team that desperately needed it. I thought that would be, at baseline his level, going into this season. I really thought that he would be able to do that for sure. Tonight was the first time where I was like, oh, he might have like a big leap. Like there's a non-zero chance that he might have like real juice here moving forward. And man, if I was the Bucks, I would be so excited about the fact that, my scouting department figured out to take a flyer on him after he had like, he had like the funky, convenience store thing that happened. And he, kind of washed out of a second spot in Washington, if I remember correctly. Like it was not super easy for him to get here. But as we talked about when Neesmith, signed his $40 million deal, these guys are my favorites. These guys that like overcome real adversity at the start of their careers and just keep fighting through confidently. It's just so hard to do that in the NBA, and he's done it expertly.
And this is exactly what the Bucks needed. We've talked about what is the guard play going to be for them. We love AJ Green and his ability to knock down shots and his gravity. Miles Turner makes a lot of sense in terms of just being a, floor stretching big to pair with Giannis.
So I want to pause on Turner real quick before we move on from the Bucks.
Yeah.
This is the best he's looked in 3 years to me. Just point blank. He looks more athletic and active. I think he's moving better. Like I don't know if it's that he's like just truly inspired. And then we're remembering at the end of last season where he clearly was dealing with an injury near the end of the finals, especially, but like the last couple of years, I don't want to say that Miles is a bad defender in Indiana because he wasn't. He was like a solid defender, but it wasn't what his prior, top 10 defender in the league status was to me, right? Where from 2019 to 2021, I thought he was pretty clearly one of the top 10 defenders in the league. He's kind of back to that right now. And he's also a great offensive mover and like awesome in these screening actions. And the thing that he struggled with early in his career, to me at least, was passing and making quick decisions. And you kind of had to like simplify the game for him a little bit. It felt like at times, even though he could shoot and then roll to the rim and finish. Now, I don't know if it's from like playing within that fast-paced up-tempo Indiana scheme or whatever it is, but like he is so quick with his reversals across the perimeter, swing passes so quick. His screening and rescreening, I think, has been expert level this year to get these guards a little bit of separation, to get Giannis like a little bit of separation when he needs it. Look, you can look at the numbers and you can, say, oh, he's only averaging 8 points per game coming into tonight. Obviously, he has 17 tonight, so that number is going to get above double digits. But I think that this is the best he's looked in a couple of years to me. And I am like really excited about what that could mean for them.
Yeah, he's another huge part of this, this puzzle for the Bucks to be legit. He has to be, I don't know that he has to be all defense level, top 10 defender, but he has to be able to control the paint and protect the rim, because these guards are, the perimeter defense is better. Like I said, Gary Trent Jr. is really competing. We mentioned Ryan Rollins, but they're still going to put some, I think AJ Green's better defensively than people will give credit for.
Yeah.
But I don't know that there's like an elite perimeter defender on the roster right now. So you do need that rim protection. Obviously,
Rollins might be, but it's close.
Yeah, Rollins might be getting there and working his way into that conversation. And Giannis obviously provides a lot as well. But just, you start putting together that many neutral to good to a couple very good defenders, and you can have a really good defensive team. And so I think he's a huge part of it. But I just think Rollins, I don't want to overstate it and get too excited about a couple really big games from him. But that is like just like a ceiling raiser for this team. If you tell me they have a guard that can do even 80% of what he's done this week in these two games, along with, and here's the other thing. This was as I was watching this game, I remember us talking about the Bucks over under in terms of, okay, even if they win a ton of games with Giannis, how many games is Giannis going to miss? And then what is their record in the non-Giannis games? And the fact they went out and got this first one against a team like the Warriors without Giannis, that's just one that you have to feel really, really good about in terms of the overall, how many wins can we get this year?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like, I thought the Warriors, like big three, played pretty well, honestly. Like, Draymond wasn't amazing, but, it looked like he fought defensively and was pretty useful to me. Curry goes for 27 on 19 shots. Jimmy Butler has 23 and 11 tonight. Kuminga has 24 and 8 and 4, right? Like the turnovers were a bit of a problem for him, but like this wasn't even a terrible Golden State night to me. Like I do think that there were some like weird Steve Kerr things that, I think Warriors fans might get frustrated about, like on a game by game basis where he's trying different lineups and things like that. Happens. But man, to pick up this win, I think you're 100% right. It's so critical. It's so huge for them. I do think that this team probably ends up as a top 4 team in the East now, is where I'm at. They're the best of the
they're better than Detroit. I had Detroit above them coming into the season. And assuming like Cleveland and New York, and I don't know about Orlando, we're about to talk about them, but like if those teams that were the 1 through 4, like I had Detroit above Milwaukee. Obviously, I've watched every second of the Pistons this year. Milwaukee looks like a better team than the Pistons right now,
and Orlando as well. I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, even if we take what I had as my top 4 and still pencil them in, like, and then you get to the next group. Obviously, the East is all kinds of, because Orlando's 2 and 4 right now, Atlanta's 2 and 3. Chicago and Philly are leading the East, which is amazing.
Yeah, we'll talk about one of those teams in a second. It's funny. Chicago is like my last blind spot where I haven't done like a real deep dive there. Like I've watched one of their games so far and that's it. I need to do like a bit of a deeper dive to understand what's going on with Chicago. Like I'm not going to sit here and like pretend to know what's happening there. I need to kind of figure that out a little bit more. Maybe that'll be tomorrow's assignment for me. Yeah. Shout out to our friends over at Momentous. Most supplements are a guessing game. You never know what's in them or even if they're tested for label accuracy. That's why I trust Momentous. Their creatine is NSF certified for label transparency and it's trusted by pro athletes. Momentous is a great place to not just help with muscle gains or, if you're trying to put on weight, whatever it is, it is really valuable for focus and for brain power. Creatine is just like really useful in that regard, especially like smaller amounts of creatine. As somebody that has ADHD and is always struggling for focus, creatine is one of those things that can be quite valuable for me. Momentous's CreaPure is backed by leading performance experts. It sets the gold standard for creatine, delivering the purest form that's rigorously washed and never cut with fillers. Their travel packs make staying consistent effortless. They're naturally flavored, perfectly portioned, and easy to mix with water anytime. They also have delicious flavors. With over 2,000 five-star reviews, over 112,000 customers have seen the results firsthand. Right now, Momentous is offering our listeners 35% off your first subscription order with promo code GAME. That's Live Momentous, LIVEMOMENTOUS.com, and use that promo code GAME for 35% off your first subscription order. That's livemomentous.com, promo code GAME. Okay. Let's go to Orlando. Let's just finish out like the games that we wanted to talk about tonight, right? So Orlando came into tonight 1-4. They beat Charlotte 123-107 on the road. Second night of a back-to-back, I believe, for both teams, if memory serves. Did the Hornets play last night? I can't remember. But for Orlando, it was certainly second night of a back-to-back. And throughout the year, my worry
Charlotte was not. Charlotte had a day off. They played Miami on Tuesday, so they had one day off. Okay.
So back-to-back for Orlando, no back-to-back for Charlotte. Well, my worry for Orlando has been that they just look messy on offense, right? And I did a video on YouTube that a bunch of people watched where I kind of explained what my problems are with what they're doing, or at least one of the things that they're doing. To me, they're not really weaponizing Desmond Bane enough as a spacer. And the first play of their game against Detroit last night was kind of the breaking point for me, where like you have an exchange at the top where you clearly come out and you try to run this set, right, to start the game. And it's like a horn set where you do an exchange with Jalen Suggs and Bane, and then you have Bane enter to Wagner at the elbow, go and set like a little, pin in for a Paulo curl to either get to, a cut just for a bucket or to get to a post up for an easy play. And because of the way you're spaced and because of the exchange that you did with Bane setting the screen for Paulo, you decide to not have Bane in the opposite corner, which is where Paulo is going to catch the ball if the cut doesn't work. And then you're going to be in a circumstance where Suggs is in the corner now, and you have Cade Cunningham swiping down on the ball, because teams just kind of help off of Suggs at the end of the day. They don't help off of Bane in that way. The whole thing of why you acquired Bane is space. And look, like you can make a case that the whole idea of this action is to attack Duncan Robinson, right? You want to attack Duncan Robinson, have him set the screen, for Paulo, make Duncan make a decision on a switch, and then you have Bane like come off of a screen from Wendell Carter, and then you're like really trying to cook a little bit. But to me, like, simplify it even more than that. Just have Bane be the guy that's spacing at the end of the day. But I digress, right? It was just like one example. But the second example for me that has frustrated me about Orlando's offense this year, and this is just like the reality, I think that they don't have enough secondary actions on the backside of what they do. They will set one screen. They will have one action into a play, and then everything will break down. So if you stop the first action, they're rarely going to get into like a second and third. So in the game tonight against Charlotte, like I literally took a note when the first one that I saw was where they ran like multiple actions to try and find one. It was like at 7:14 in like the third or fourth quarter. I think it might've been like the fourth quarter or something. And I was like, whoa, this is new and different. This is great, right? Like we're finally getting into some, complicated stuff here. We're trying to set a screen. Okay, that one didn't work. On the backside, you have Wendell Carter setting a screen for Wagner to come up. Okay, that didn't work. Let's go up and set a screen for Paulo now. Like, okay, now we're like into real continuity offensively, right? And getting into your principles offensively. I don't feel any differently about Orlando after this game than what I did coming into tonight, even though they dropped 123 on Charlotte, because look, yes, like they drilled 16 of 38 from three and had 42% from three. They're going to shoot better than what they have at some point this year. Like you're going to have these games where you shoot well. It's more like where the shots came from. They had 2 out of 4 from Paulo, 3 out of 6 from Wagner, 3 out of 5 from Wendell Carter, 3 out of 6 from Anthony Black, and Batadze made a 3 as well. And it's like, well, that's just like not going to happen every night. So what is it when you're not playing like one of the worst transition defenses in the league? And what is it when you're not drilling 42% from three, with threes coming from guys that frankly, like Charlotte probably wanted to take threes from?
Yeah, I mean, Franz has gone 6 of 10 in the last 2 games, and I hope for him that means he's figured out his jumper. But I had the same feeling, and obviously I watched the game on Wednesday night very intensely. And my first note is more creativity from them offensively. My frustration point for them was after a timeout, they literally just run a mid-post isolation for Paolo Banchero. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. I don't need a timeout to say, throw the ball to Paolo, let him dribble into mid-post isolation. You know what I mean? Like, I can do that every single possession all game if I want. Do something more creative. Get someone else going. Desmond Bane was a non-factor in that game. Why not?
He just looks so off right now to me.
Yes.
Like in terms of just figuring out what his role is in all of this thing.
So even more to my point, Sam, the best coaches use ATOs, start of games, start of halves to run an action for that player. The player who had a rough game last game. The guy who doesn't always get involved in the offense. I talk about this with bigs all the time. I think it was like the Wolves will do it for Gobert sometimes. The Clippers will do it for Zubac sometimes. Like guys they know that are like, let's get them a touch early in the game because we know they're going to do all the dirty work for the rest of the game. Zubac may have, gone past that by now. But it's just run something else. Later in the game, I found myself like super excited because they ran an inverted pick and roll with Banchero and Bane and actually got Bane a little floater. It wasn't super creative. I was like, okay, it was something different. Like it was something a little bit different than what we had seen. There's just not enough creativity. Like you have these creative players. Tristan da Silva, I don't know if that guy ever misses a shot. He didn't seem like he did it against Detroit, and it looked like he had another big game tonight. You have talented offensive players. Franz is one of the best off-the-ball cutters and movers, and then 2-foot finesse and creative finishers in the lane. Paulo with all of his talent. I think there's something more that can be done, and it's early. Suggs is just, back after missing a lot of last year, but it's not like it's his first, it's not like he's in his first couple years. Integrating Bane is one thing, but you've had Franz and Paulo long enough. And all of these centers have been on the roster for this whole time. I just don't understand how there can't be a little more creativity. I know I continue to use the same word. It's the only word I can think of.
Well, and look, I thought tonight was like not overly creative. I will say this for Paulo. I thought the Detroit game was like particularly bad in terms of his shot decision making, right?
Especially in the second half. The first half, he was a little more like distributed. Second half, it went like ISO Paulo ball.
Yeah, 100%. And like it was a lot of like mid posts, pull ups and things like that. There was one play in the first half where I like literally lost my mind, where he was coming down in transition, caught an early screen from someone, and literally you could see a miscommunication happen between Duren and Stewart on who's going to step up. Both of them point to the foul line and say, asking like one of the other ones to go up there, and nobody goes up, right? So the seas part and there's just a wide open lane for Paulo to drive into. He could have just exploded forward off of his back foot and just slammed, and like nobody would have gotten there. I don't think. Like I think Stewart was moving to his left. It would have been like a hell of a plant and then like explosion back and right for Stewart to be able to get there. And Paulo didn't even notice it. He'd already made his choice to stop and pull up from 16 feet. And look, like I think Paulo's going to shoot it better at some point. Obviously shot it better tonight, but that can't be the shot with 18 seconds left on the shot clock either. Right. And tonight I thought it was a much better blend for Paulo of the scoring and the passing. And frankly, it was a much better blend of fewer bad shots. Realistically, like he only took a couple where I was like, oh, this is a catastrophe. Like, what are we doing here? Why are we taking this? He took one like on the baseline that was like a fadeaway where I literally just like was ready to pull my hair out. But he had 9 assists and only 1 turnover tonight. Yeah. And it felt like he did a better job of just collapsing the defense like we know he's so capable of doing as a mismatch threat. And then looking out and finding open shooters, finding Anthony Black, who shot the ball really well tonight, finding, Franz Wagner for a 3, finding Wendell Carter when he got open, finding Tristan da Silva, who's been really good for them to start the year to this point. He had 19 again tonight. He's been like awesome to me so far. But I just feel like there is still some rewiring there that needs to happen. And I have questions right now as to whether or not it will happen under this coaching staff, because it does just feel like, even though I respect the hell out of what Mosley has done as a guy that like has built a defensive infrastructure there and has built like a real identity for what they can rely on, it still feels so stagnant on offense. And the whole thing that you did this summer was to reduce the stagnation on your offense.
I think one of my favorite play types from the Detroit game, at least, was when they put him in the short roll, which you can then use Desmond Bane as the ball handler and get him involved in another way as well. And then Detroit couldn't stop him in the short roll. Like Paulo would come up and set the ball screen. It puts you in really tough spot because you want to switch off of Paulo. Whoever's guarding Bane, you want that guy switching on to Paulo. And then you can go to the mid post isolation if they do switch, because you have a really good matchup, or you're getting Tobias Harris switched on to Desmond Bane. So what they were getting was some sort of coverage that wasn't switch. I think they were, playing at the level, and then Paulo would just roll out of it into a little short roll. And now you've created an easy advantage from him in an area of the floor that he's comfortable and confident in. And then he can either hit the little floater, the little jumper, or make a decision. The other thing I want to say is, and this includes tonight, even the win tonight where they held the Hornets to 107 points. Sam, this is the 21st defense in the NBA in terms of defensive rating. So the defense hasn't necessarily been stand out to start the year either. Now, small sample, always this context right now with these conversations. I've watched this Detroit Pistons team struggle through the early part of the season because they don't have floor spacers, hang 135 on Orlando. And it just was like, man, maybe there's some shooting variance there. Maybe there's a 3-point stat out there that somebody could throw at me, but it's not like they've been a top 3 defense so far to start the year either.
Yeah, no, I agree. Couple of Hornets notes just from tonight in general. Extremely concerned about Tidjane Salon is where I'm at. Just exceptionally concerned if I was a Hornets fan. I thought Sion James was great tonight. Like he took on multiple tough matchups, took on Paulo for like a big portion of that game, and made his life like a little bit harder to be able to get to the paint. Paulo was still awesome tonight. He had, 20 and 9 assists and 9 rebounds and shot 8 of 12 from the field. But I thought Sion did a good job of like limiting the volume. Kalkbrenner looks great. Yeah. Just doesn't miss around the rim. 17 and 7 tonight, 3 blocks. I still think that their interior defense is not particularly good, even with Kalkbrenner, and Diabate is just kind of all over the map. I feel like when I watch him, like he's just, he jumps so often and is so active that I think you can kind of, if you're an offensive team, you can play off of that, knowing the way he's going to be. Tonight wasn't LaMelo's best night, but still 13 assists and 3 turnovers. He just didn't shoot it well, like from 3. I think that the process looks like I'm talking about LaMelo's worst game of the year so far tonight. And I just think the process looks way better for him.
He's had a great start to the year.
Yeah. Like, goes for 17, 13, and 7, right? So, on 19 shots and doesn't get to the line at all. You would think that, that's another bad LaMelo game, bad shot selection, this, that, and the other, but it wasn't. Sometimes the ball just doesn't go in. Like if he goes 3 of 9 from 3 tonight instead of 1 of 9, you're looking at 23, 7, and 13, and the line just looks way better, right? So, look, like, are there things he can improve upon? Absolutely, but truly, like through the first 5 or 6 games of their year, I have no complaints about that dude right now. I think he's been pretty much outstanding to start the year, and he's a big reason why they are competitive, just about every night.
Before we leave the Hornets, I'm interested to get your thoughts on this because he's a small guard. Do you think there's going to be a market for Sexton at the trade deadline? Do you think there's going to be a team out there that's looking for what he does off the bench? Because I do. I watched the game and I was just like, he gets after it at the point of attack. He's at least going to, maybe he's an earlier trade candidate, like for a team that needs to win some regular season games and then knows that maybe he becomes a little bit of a liability in the playoffs. He can score the basketball. He's averaging almost 20 a game right now on crazy efficiency. And again, he at least competes on the defensive end. I'm just like on an expiring deal. I feel like that's a guy that some contender out there, whether it's injury or otherwise, is going to go, it's like the Dennis Schroeder for different players, but the Dennis Schroeder for the Detroit Pistons last year. I just feel like he's going to have a market at the deadline.
Yeah, I do wonder if the Bucks are, unless Rollins just continues to eat up this role, like if the Bucks could find a way to get him, I think it would be very valuable. Like, I don't think they're going to give up picks to do Kuzma for him for Sexton. Like, and if I'm Charlotte, I'm just not taking Kuzma back. But, is there any way to figure out a world where we could get him to Milwaukee, like in a 3-team construction? Dallas, we'll see how they continue to move forward. Dallas just could use another ball handler, I think, although Brandon Williams was quite good last night.
Just start him. What are we doing?
Start somebody.
No, start him. At least the next game, because he came in and the game completely changed. And I don't know if that's because Brandon Williams is awesome or just because every other option is so bad for that team. The whole game changed when he stepped onto the floor. That would have been Wednesday night, right? I watched that game this morning. Just play him give him 10 games as a starting point guard and let's see what it looks like.
The other interesting one to me with Sexton is I wonder if the Celtics could do something like, man, I actually don't think that Charlotte can take back that much money though. I was going to say, is there a way that you could do Sexton for Simons and the Celtics will throw back some money or throw back some picks to the Hornets to switch those two? And then the Celtics get way closer to the tax line and they could maybe find a third, landing spot for Sexton at some point because they still have to cut $12 million in money. Yeah. So every little bit would count, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. There will be options for Sexton, I think, though, at the deadline.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next team I want to talk about, I want to go to the 76ers now. Let's just keep our tour of the Eastern Conference going with the teams that are probably the I don't know about the biggest stories in the East right now. I would say the 76ers and the Bucks, though, are probably the 2 biggest stories in the East, maybe Orlando with their struggles. The 76ers are 4-0. Do you think they look good?
That's a loaded question. I think Tyrese Maxey looks incredible and like an all NBA player. And
it is purposely loaded, Bryce.
And VJ Edgecombe looks like maybe the rookie of the year right now. And Quentin Grimes looks like a 6th man of the year right now. And oh my gosh, I just looked at their stats. So do you know what Maxey is shooting 47% from three. VJ's 43. Kelly Oubre's 45. Quentin Grimes is 48. Oubre is the lowest volume at 5 attempts per game.
Bryce, do you know what they're shooting as a team right now?
I mean, it has to be well over. It has to be over 40%.
42% from three right now.
Yeah,
they're shooting
because Justin Edwards is at 45.5 on 3 attempts.
Yeah, they are shooting 42% from three right now. That's just not going to hold. Point blank, I feel good saying that. They're not going to shoot 42% from three this year.
It's probably fair.
They are also the 6th worst defense in the NBA right now. So the fact that they have a 125 offensive rating, largely like based on their shooting, is why they are 4-0 right now, and have been great. And look, this isn't to take anything away because I've really loved watching them play this year. Like the VJ Maxey combination has been so incredibly fun and looks like their future, right? And you throw McCain in there, they're going to be an incredibly fun basketball team moving forward to watch. But the reason I want to talk about them is Joel looks terrible.
Yeah.
Like I'm sorry. Like they played that game against the Wizards where they go to overtime against the Wizards and win 139-134 2 nights ago. Joel Embiid goes for 25 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists on 17 shots. And even if they weren't like keeping him to a minutes limit, which I think is why they, kind of said that they didn't play him late, I still would have told you that I think they made the right decision going with Bona at the end of the game over him.
Well, his rim protection was huge down the stretch of that game.
Yes.
Adem
Bona, has 5 blocks in that game and, throws the ball off the backboard every time he tries to attempt a shot. But like, he's so much more athletic and so much more of a rim protection threat than anything that Drummond and Joel Embiid are bringing them at all. It's really crazy how unplayable it feels like Drummond and Embiid are on defense right now. And like Alex Sarr is the prime example, going for 31, 11, and 5. And you did the Sarr breakdown. Like my immediate takeaway watching that game was just like, I don't know what to even make of Sarr. This might be a leap. This might just be the Sixers front court being like so bad because they can't move. Like none of those guys with Drummond and Embiid, neither of those guys and Drummond and Embiid could move. So like anytime you ran like an empty side ball screen action, it was just a rampage to the rim for Sarr, for whoever was out there. It was, like Marvin Bagley took Joel Embiid off the bounce for like a Euro step finish. And I was like, oh my God, we need to be like red alert here. I feel like teams are going to be like, okay, we have the green light to just attack Joel in space right now because he can't move.
Is this just who he is? I mean, I was watching the game against the Hornets and just go, all right, this is Tyrese Maxey's team now. And potentially this young trio of guards team. And Embiid is going to be the most efficient scoring 20 to 25 minute a night big in the NBA, who is a neutral defender because just with his size, he can still, if you just play him and drop, and he can protect the rim a little bit and all of that. Is that worth the contract? No, but there's still some value in that. I'm trying to slow myself down and wonder if this is a ramp up period for Embiid where maybe we see a little bit more, while also trying to be honest with myself that this is a big man who's been through a lot of lower body injuries in his career. And this may be who he is at this point. And like, I guess the point of my question is, Sam, is do we need to start evaluating him as this type of player, a 20 to 25 minute a night defender who does still, I mean, he is averaging 16 points in 20 and a half minutes on 40% from three, but the rebounding's not that impactful. You've mentioned the rim protection. Is that just how we have to start evaluating Joel Embiid as opposed to an all NBA type player?
Well, and even more almost than the defense. The defense is the tough part for me personally, but like when you watch him on offense and he's like setting screens, right? It's all pick and pop or like pick and short roll to like, like I look, I'm sure that he's gone within 10 feet of the rim at some point this season, but the fact that I can't think of a moment off the top of my head where I'm like, oh yeah, like he got a really easy half court bucket by rolling to the rim is concerning. Like it just feels like the percentages of, you know, when he's popping versus when he's rolling to the rim or short rolling, right? Like it feels pretty drastic right now. And like on some level, they're able to play 5 out, and that's really helpful with Maxey, and it's really helpful for VJ to have the lane open. But you also do want that like vertical rim presence on some level, and he's not really providing that right now either. So I don't
quick
know.
To back up your point. Yeah. Just this is, B-ball reference. 43% of his field goal attempts are 3-pointers this year, the highest of his career substantially. And before last year was the next highest at 24%. And the lowest percent of field goal attempts of his career between 0 and 3 feet. Last year was his second lowest at 19. This year's at 13. And last year at 19 was the only year that it was less than 20% of his field goal attempts. So, I mean, the number, very small sample, again, always the caveat, but the numbers have bore out what you're saying as well.
Yeah. I mean, look, like their schedule in theory is not too bad to start the year. They are very close to home, like throughout basically all of like through mid-November, even home against Boston, road against Brooklyn, road against Chicago, road against Cleveland, then home against Toronto, Detroit, Boston, road against Detroit, home against LA, Toronto. That takes you to November 19th on the road against Milwaukee, home against Miami, Orlando, road against Brooklyn, home against Atlanta, Washington, Golden State, at Milwaukee, and then home against LA, road against New York, 2 more home games against Dallas and Brooklyn. And then you finally go on a road trip, Chicago, Oklahoma City, Memphis, Dallas, New York. Like even through like Christmas, basically, their longest road trip is a single game against Milwaukee.
They hit the central time zone like one time in that schedule, I feel like.
It's 3 times because they have road against Chicago, road against Milwaukee, and then they have 2 road games against Milwaukee in that window. But that's it. Like this schedule is about as easy as you could find to start the year, and then it picks up in like December and January. So I guess I say this just to say, like, I wonder if this is a team that gets out to like a pretty hot start. And, maybe we're looking at them and they're like 20-7, 20-8 even or something, because they get to play a lot of games at home. They don't have to travel a ton. They're probably going to be more well rested than most teams. And that's huge for Joel, obviously, as well. And maybe that allows Joel to kind of work his way back in a little bit better, right?
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, they're not going to shoot 42% from 3 as a team, but these guys we're talking about are, Tyrese Maxey's a big time shot maker. VJ, even as a rookie, is a guy that can knock down shots. Grimes in a contract year, not surprised by this. If Justin Edwards is like trying to turn himself into this 3-and-D wing, Embiid obviously is a skilled shooter for a big. So I don't think it's going to just fall off a cliff, that this is just completely, outlandish. I mean, it is outlandish for it to stay at that level, but like you said, if they have their legs, if they're not traveling a lot, I don't know what the rest days are involved in that schedule, but keep the hot shooting. Maxey stays on this all NBA level pace. VJ continues to play well. Maybe this perimeter game sprinkled in with enough Embiid, enough athleticism from an Adem Bona, the combination of Barlow, Walker, or whoever else trying to play the 4, maybe that's enough to, like you say, get him out to a longer term hot start.
Yeah. I mean, I can't remember a schedule where a team did not have to travel much until Christmas. Like the league did Philly a solid here with this. So they got to take advantage. They really do. But at the same token, like anybody that's looking at this situation where they are shooting the absolute lights out from 3, and then like, oh, by the way, just even looking at their opponent 3-point percentage, they're 10th in that number as well right now. I mean, like anybody that's looking at this is just like a hot start based on shooting variance. I totally get it. And based on the fact that they played a Boston team that's still trying to figure itself out, Charlotte, Washington, and then as we've talked about, like a messy Orlando as well, who's very clearly all over the map right now on both ends of the court. Like there are a lot of reasons to believe that this is like kind of smoke and mirrors here a little bit. And if I was Philly, I would really want to like just kind of settle in and play a pretty normal game where they're able to like hopefully stop somebody. But I'm going to be honest, like I haven't seen a lot in their defense yet that gives me hope right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I don't know. We'll see. I would like that team to be good, but ultimately, I guess what I wanted to talk about with Philly, even beyond what we've kind of spoken about here, is just we talk about how excited we are with Maxey and Edgecombe and McCain, and Justin Edwards is young, and maybe they decide to just keep Quentin Grimes and sign him long term. You can make a case that they have a very exciting perimeter long term. But that doesn't change the fact that for the next 3 years after this one, or 2 years after this one, rather, in one of these players' cases, they still have, what is the number? I'm pulling it up. Over $110 million in 2026-27 locked up in Joel Embiid and Paul George. About 120 locked up in 2027-28, and then they have an additional 68 on Joel in 28-29. And that's just going to be such a massive anchor and such a massive bummer for this team as they try to build out this really exciting group long term. And hopefully Paul George just comes back and he's who he was prior to getting to Philly. That'd be amazing if last season was just like an aberration in some way. But he's not getting younger is the problem. And man, I just worry about them having to like play with 2 hands tied behind their back as they try to build this fun young core moving forward. It feels complicated to me.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about it today, but I don't know what you do to, because you're not getting off those contracts with value. And so I wonder if you just, the nice thing, I guess, for them is VJ's on his rookie deal until those deals come off the books. McCain is on his rookie deal until Paul George's comes off the books. Maybe you can survive it whenever, if those guys are 2 of your 5 best players are on rookie deals. And you can figure it out. The problem, the part that sucks is you probably are conveying that first round pick. So you're not going to get a chance to go get in, no matter where it's not no matter where you land, but you can't even, if you're outside the lottery or whatever, like you're not going to get to a chance to get another hit on another draft pick. So I don't know how they build this thing out, because I just don't know how you get off of those deals. And so
yeah,
they're hamstrung with them now. And that's why I brought up the Joel Embiid thing in terms of, do we just look at him as a 25-minute a night, super efficient scoring big man that's way, way overpaid, but, fits okay on a roster that's dominated by perimeter guards like Maxey, Edgecombe, and McCain? And I don't know where Paul George fits into that. I want to see Paul George play this year because I was not excited about it by the end of last year, Sam. And so I want to see what he looks like this year before I even say that about him, I guess.
I asked a friend of mine who works for a front office this question. If based off of what you've seen on how Joel looks, and let's say that there's no improvement in his mobility and movement ability, right? If the Kings came to you and offered Domantas Sabonis and Malik Monk, or no, I'm sorry. If the Sixers offered Joel Embiid and VJ Edgecombe for Sabonis and Malik Monk, would the Kings do that deal?
Wait,
is the Embiid contract so negative if he continues to play like this and can't move
take VJ?
That you wouldn't take VJ in order to get off of like money that in Malik's case they've tried to get off of, and to move Sabonis basically?
Well, but in that scenario though, you're already on the hook for the same amount of years.
Sabonis has less years, and the idea would be that you could just move Sabonis elsewhere. Somebody else would do Sabonis, I think.
Yeah. I don't know.
We're so early that it's not worth having this conversation yet. But to me, that's how concerning the Joel play has been so far on defense. That's where I'm at. I'm that worried about the way he is. He's still unbelievably skilled as a ball handler for his size, and he can shoot it. And again, he had 25 points against the Wizards. So keep that in mind. But I just don't know, man. That is, I think that the best way to phrase it is that I think shows how worried I am about this.
Yeah, because obviously if you're getting anything close to a healthy, but I don't know if this is who he is or if this is a minutes restriction, ramp up, whatever type of situation. The other thing is is VJ just worth that? Is VJ just worth taking that on if you're Sacramento?
That's the thing. That's why it was an interesting question, I thought. Is it that he's so good that it's worth it, right?
Yeah,
and I think VJ looks amazing so far. And they would never move him.
That would be my argument if I'm Sacramento is, okay, yeah, that's 20 extra million for 2 of the years plus the final year. But as I've talked about, I think you could still get something out of Embiid in 20 to 25 minutes a night, and we get the superstar upside potential of VJ Edgecombe. Okay, I'll sign up for that. That would be my pitch if I'm the Kings. And I'll go get off other money, right? I'll go get off Levine's money eventually, and I get off DeRozan's money, and I'm getting off Monk's money. I guess that would be the argument is actually between Sabonis. Well, now I have to add in VJ. So you're still taking in a little extra, but yeah, anyway.
Yeah. I think where I landed on it was, I would want to know what else is out there for Sabonis. If I could do a different Sabonis deal before I did this.
I want to know why Embiid's only playing the minutes he is, and if this is what he's gonna be, or if this is, I know I've said it multiple times now, just a ramp up type of thing. And if we're gonna see him playing 28 to 32, or even if he's playing 25 to 28, is the movement different than what we're seeing right now? Because
it's entirely possible. I want to be clear about that. The reason I raised it was to try and bring up how bad is this contract going to be underwater here?
Yeah.
Is it so under contract? Is it so underwater that a team wouldn't take him if you included VJ?
Yeah.
Was kind of my idea.
Yeah.
So that's, I feel like I just shit on the Sixers start, and I've loved watching them, and I think it's been so fun, but there are just warning signs here that I hope end up not coming to fruition.
It's fair.
Okay. The final 2 things I want to talk about before we get out of here. Do you want to start with the good or the bad? Do you want to end with the good or end with the bad?
Let's end with the good. So let's go bad here.
Okay. Have you watched the Pelicans much?
Do you need to watch the Pelicans? I feel like I can just watch the box score or check my DMs because I had one of their fans. And I mean, so here's the thing, Sam, we've kind of joked about this, but I had a conversation with somebody today that actually made me feel sad for their fan base because this person was so worried about the direction of this organization that they took it to like, they're going to run it into the ground. They're going to turn off all the fan base. And eventually the ownership is going to move them to Seattle. And, I just think that's where their fan base is though. Like they can't even enjoy being awful because they know what it means for the draft night. And that every podcast like ours is always going to bring it up that the worst process trade ever ended up showing exactly why the process was so bad when that pick conveys to Atlanta in 9 months.
Yeah. I mean, right now they are the second worst team in the league by record behind Brooklyn. They do not have a win yet. The other team, the three teams that do not have a win, Brooklyn, New Orleans, and Indiana. And if you remember, like 2 days before Tyrese Halliburton tore his ACL, or tore his Achilles, I'm sorry.
Indiana got their pick back.
Indiana traded the number 23 overall pick for their own future first round pick that was owned by New Orleans. And that was, what was that acquired within? That was acquired within they got it from Toronto, who had gotten it from Indiana from the Siakam deal, and Toronto traded it to them in the Brandon Ingram deal. Yeah. So they went to New Orleans and said, we'll give you pick 23 this year for our future first round pick back. So right now, as it currently stands,
they would
2
have
weeks into the season, they would have number 2 and number 3 at this point. That's something that like you just can't, account for, right? Like, would I have given up the future upside of number 23? We talked about this at the time that I thought it was a pretty stupid deal. That like doing the upside, even if like you play the game of Halliburton getting hurt or Siakam getting hurt or something, and they still make the playoffs, right? Like it's still, the odds are that the upside of the pick in 2026 was always greater than the downside of going lower than number 23.
It's right? Hard to argue that, that the 23rd pick in any single draft is that much more valuable than the 30th pick, because that's the worst case scenario for the 2026 pick, right? Was the Pacers in the NBA championship. It's hard to argue that the value difference there is so drastic that it's not worth the upside of a lottery pick or, wherever. Yeah. Like it's hard to argue.
To be clear, I said this at the time. This is not revisionist history because Halliburton 2 days later tore his Achilles, right? Then they use that pick at number 23 and trade up for Derek Queen with the unprotected pick that they've sent to Atlanta. And Derek Queen has looked okay to this point. Like he had a really good game, I thought, against San Antonio. Has been hit or miss otherwise. Like the defense is a real catastrophe, like the rest of this team's is. But like it took one summer for Joe Dumars and Troy Weaver to like completely screw this up and like way overvalue where they are. And we saw this, we did the whole thing when they took over. Like this is the Troy Weaver playbook, like to a T. Draft a point guard who looks, by the way, Jeremiah Fears like looks totally fine so far. He's not shooting well and he's not very good on defense, but the speed is a real weapon.
He is. He touches the paint. Wow.
Whenever he wants. He has been genuinely like a real like ray of sunlight for them to this point, in my opinion. Like I've enjoyed watching him to this point of his career. But this is so much pressure on Derek Queen to be. Derek Queen at this point has to be an all-star. Otherwise, this is like a total catastrophe for them.
Yep.
And that's an insane amount of pressure to put on any 13th overall pick, let alone a guy that if they don't take him at 13, I don't know where he goes on draft night. Like there was some real question about him entering draft night, where he was going to fall. So like, I want Derek Queen to be successful. The NBA is a better place if Derek Queen is successful, because that dude has such a fun basketball game and has such a fun personality. But it's just a ton of pressure. And I really worry about where this organization's headed. And by the way, they're 0-5 or 0-4 right now. And what did we talk about in the preseason, right? We thought they'd be pretty okay for as long as they were healthy, right? They're healthy right now. Like they've had Eve miss a game or two there, here or there, right? But like
Zion,
they've largely been healthy to this point. And they're still just like absolutely cratering games to the point where they just signed DeAndre Jordan and started him last night against Denver ahead of Eve Missy, who was playing in the game. The first 6 minutes of the third quarter, I turned it off after the first 6 minutes of the third quarter, or maybe like 8 minutes or whatever. I was good. I'd seen enough. I have not seen like worse defensive continuity across the board off the ball from like there are college teams that I won't see worse defensive continuity from this year. Like from like teenagers and stuff. It is terrible. And like they make like one effort and then they kind of stop. Like they're like kind of the king right now of the, you know, hey, we'll make the one effort rotation and then we'll just stop playing. Right.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, Bryce, it's getting late early in New Orleans right now for their season. And I don't know if it's a coaching change that has to happen. I don't know if it's already a regime change in the front office. I feel like there's a 0% chance of that happening. Like, I mean, people around the league are just kind of looking at this in awe.
Worst net rating in the league. Worst offense in the NBA. Bottom 5 defense. The defense seems even worse somehow. I think the offense will bounce a little bit. I'd like to think that Trey Murphy III is better than what he's doing right now. But, I mean, they struggle to defend simple ball screen actions. Like just anything creative an offense does seems like it confuses them and they don't know how to defend it. We knew it was going to be a struggle, but you thought with a healthy Zion and what I think, I will still say what I think Trey Murphy III is, what I think or know Herb Jones is. I still thought like you said, when they're healthy, competitive, maybe win some games, and they're trying to win games because they don't have a draft pick. None of that so far. None of it. And I don't know. Like I said, I always kind of make light of it until today, having that conversation. I just, you sometimes remember you feel for fan bases that are, being put through it. But like you said, hopefully maybe Fears continues to look good and that will be something positive the fan base can take from it. And we'll see where Queen goes, but it is not good.
Bryce, they started DeAndre Jordan last night after they signed him off the street a week ago, or like within the last week.
Yeah. That's worse than the Killian Hayes starting over Jaden Ivey that Pistons fan had to endure for 2 months.
It's kind of crazy. Like I was watching that game and I was like, like all due respect to DeAndre Jordan, who's been an all NBA player and he's gotten so much out of his career. And I respect so much that he was a second rounder who like developed into that level of player under Doc Rivers and like figured it out. But I was like sitting there and I was like, this is like elder abuse right now. Like watching what Nikola Jokic is doing to him.
Well, the thing is like, what's the value of that for them?
That's the other thing too. Yeah.
Like I truly love DeAndre Jordan. Like, again, he's been in Denver. I've been to those games. I always kind of enjoyed watching his interactions.
a great
great dude,
teammate, unbelievable dude to have in the locker room.
100%.
And I get signing him as like a locker room guy for young guys. Like I'm all for that. If a team wants to do that, like that is great.
But play your second year big man.
Yes. With your starters.
Yeah. What are we doing? So yeah.
Yeah. I that was staggering to me. And again, like these are not shots at DeAndre, who has had an amazing career. No. And I like truly wish that he is able, you know, like I'm happy for him that he's getting this like fully guaranteed $3 million this year. Sure. You know what I mean? Like great for him that he has this, but yeah, I don't know, man. That was tough. Let's finish on a high note though. Austin Reaves good at basketball. Thoughts?
Who knew?
Who knew?
I don't know. He's really good, and I don't really know like where to go with this because the dude can play. Like he has a certain I think it was JJ was actually getting interviewed by Legler after the game on NBA. Like it was a pre-record. It was one that was recorded in the off season, and JJ said something about like the creativity that Austin Reaves plays with. And I think it's true. I think it's a really good way to explain his game and describe his game because he doesn't wow you with athleticism or burst or speed or anything like that. He's just really creative. And that was highlighted and capped off with the game winner on Wednesday night where he splits, they get Gobert in a good situation, like smart offensive coaching there, but Austin splits it, gets into the lane, hits the little floater, high arcing. He was a great distributor and creator throughout that whole game. He's just a really talented basketball player that, I mean, obviously this has been an insane stretch of 3 games, but whenever I heard the news that Luka was out, I expected some level of this. Now, this level is maybe even beyond what I expected, but I didn't think the Lakers would just crater and he would average 20 a game. Like I fully expected him to go average 20 plus, maybe even 30 plus through this stretch. 51-point game, a game winner, like I don't know about that, but I'm probably higher on him than anybody. So I expected him to just come in and ball out and play at this level.
51 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists against Sacramento. 41, 4 and 5 against Portland in a loss. And then 28, 1 and 16 assists against Minnesota, including that game winner where I was trying to decide what I thought of their decision to blitz with Gobert.
Yeah.
In that moment. Cause like part of me is like, okay, like the one guy who can't beat you here is Austin. Right. So I do understand like trying to take the ball out of his hands, but like Rudy just got so far off of his line there where like I almost think that the coaching strategy was fine and Rudy just like got too far off of his line and didn't execute exactly right.
One thing I want to bring up in those final 2 games specifically, that's against Tumani Kamara and Jaden McDaniels is what Austin Reaves did, being the top name on the scouting report and like full deny, blitz, get the ball out of his hands, all of those things. And this is also a Lakers roster that's not only missing LeBron and Luka, but also Marcus Smart isn't available. Gabe Vincent isn't available right now for this team. So it's not even the full plethora of role players for the Lakers. Like Jake LaRavia had a career night on Wednesday to help in that win, but like he's not even doing it with the best of the others on that Lakers roster. So it's been an extremely impressive 3-game stretch for Reaves. And I would guess teams around the NBA that have cap space next summer are watching this sample size if they have any interest in him being a lead guard for their team next year.
Do you remember when people would like call us crazy?
Yes.
When we would be very clear that he's making $40 million this coming summer per year.
Yeah. Like I remember people thinking that he was stupid for turning down the extension that he was capable of signing. Like,
because that was like $490 or something.
Like what do you mean he's not considering that? So
No, there's no chance he should consider that. He's way too good. People still complain at me for saying he's a top 40 guy in the league. Like, I think he's very clearly like something like that, a top 40 guy in the league.
I had a conversation before we recorded, and I was just like, yeah, like people hate us all the time because we are, so high on. So to give his numbers right now, by the way, he's the fourth leading scorer in the NBA at 34 a game on 53, 39, 90. Austin Reaves is getting to the free throw line at the third most per game in the NBA this season, along with 10 assists, 5.5 rebounds, almost 2 steals. Doesn't have a block on the year. Not surprising there. But yeah, so 34, 10, 5.5.
Okay. So this is where I want to go next. To me, if you have the option to sign Austin Reaves to a 25% max, if you're the Lakers, like just you do it. You know what I mean? Like you should be happy to do that, in my opinion. I think he's good enough to do that. Does this change the calculus for you in any way, shape, or form, knowing that your future is Luka and Austin Reaves in all likelihood, unless you decide to like screw around with the contract? Because like, look, anybody that's been to LA, like will tell you, like you look around like the city, there are just billboards of Austin Reaves, right? Like it feels like it seems like he's very happy to be there. And if they take care of him, like as long as they offer him what he's worth, and it's very easy to offer him what he's worth in this circumstance, because I think it's just going to be a max at the end of the day. But even if it's like slightly less than a max, right? Like I think as long as they take care of him, it feels like there's no reason for him to leave. Maybe that changes. Who knows through the rest of the season? We're still 9 months away from that, 8 months away from that. Does this in any way change the calculus for you if you're the Lakers on how you handle LeBron here this year? LeBron has a no trade clause, so like he has to go somewhere that he would be willing to go to. But like if I told you you could go get like real assets for LeBron and he would agree to do it, or do you want to see what LeBron, Luka, and Austin looks like? Do you think you're a real contender?
Yeah, I think I would just it would depend on what a team would want to give up.
And to be clear, I'm not saying that I think that like a Luka LeBron team, or no, I'm sorry, a Luka Austin Reaves team is good enough by itself to win a title, right? Yeah. Like they'd have to go out and find other guys, like for sure. But if the goal is building for the future, does that change your strategy at all? Or are you trying to win a title this year?
I think I would just go try to win a title with LeBron in this iteration, because I don't know that a LeBron trade is going to bring me back the sheer number of players and what I would feel that you need to build out this roster. When this trade happened, I said, Sam, and I'm sure people laughed at me. And listen, Austin Reaves is not even close to as decorated as this player, not even close at this point in his career. But I thought Austin Reaves could be the Kyrie Irving version for Luka in LA. Because I think what Dallas built around Luka made a ton of sense. And I think Austin Reaves can play the role that Kyrie Irving played, which is play off of Luka Doncic really, really well. And then as we're seeing now, when Luka's not on the floor, go be the man and be the driver of offense. And so I think he can do that. I think what LA has to now do is find the rim protecting bigs and lob threat bigs and the 3-and-D wings around him. And LeBron doesn't fill any of those other roles. So that it kind of breaks down. But I mean, LeBron's greatness, like you just have to imagine they figure it out. So I think I would still just say, like, I have 3 high level basketball processors and shot makers and just players. And hopefully I can win out with that. No, because I just don't know that a LeBron trade sets me up. I don't know what the return is that I'm going to be able to build the ideal roster around Luka and Austin anyway. Play it out with LeBron, and then I'll deal with those roster building things next offseason.
So I agree with you. I just want to be clear that I agree with you 100% here, right? I think that they should just kind of play this out. What if I told you that a Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid, Mike Conley for LeBron and Dalton Connect deal is essentially cash neutral, like almost to the dollar. I think it's like $70,000 difference, which is crazy by that kind of money standards. And then you're talking about Minnesota having Ant, Gobert, Randall, Dante, and then like the kids to try and go win a title with Ant and LeBron.
So here's my issue, Sam. I think Jaden McDaniels would be a lot of fun. I love Naz Reid. I still just don't think you have the center. I don't think that team's good enough still.
Sure. It's fair enough. Honestly, it's fair enough.
I think I would just take the high upside variance of LeBron just has one run left in him. Even though the long-term play of McDaniels with those guys makes so much sense. Would be awesome.
Yeah. I generally am with you on this. Like, you know, I don't think that the Cavs and Lakers could do like Jared Allen and Hunter.
Well,
but
that's the guy. Like I would say, who's the center you could go get me? Jared Allen would be fun.
Jarrett would be the one that, like, in theory, if he was willing to go back to Cleveland, like, could you find a way to make the money work somehow? I think that, like, you can get fairly close. The Cavs are over the second apron, so you can't even like aggregate, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Now that I think about it, I think the Wolves might even be, if the Wolves aren't over the second apron, they're like very, very close to being over the second apron. I think that they might have just slightly avoided it. Did they? Yeah. They're like 3 million under the second apron.
Speaking of the Wolves, like Anthony Edwards is so much fun. Like I'm a huge Jake LaRavia fan, but even all of that interaction was kind of fun last night. And like LaRavia had his moment and got back at him anyway. But then also did you see the one where Ant got was yelling at the official about it not being a foul, and then you can watch him watch the replay. He's like, oh, my bad. That was a foul. I was like, all right, I respect it. Like he seems fun. And obviously he's really good at basketball as well, but just watching him on the bench I always love those dynamics. It's one of the biggest reasons I want to sit courtside, Sam, is like, I wanted to know what they were yelling at LaRavia and what LaRavia was yelling back every time he made a shot. Like those are the things that I actually am interested in. That's non quote unquote basketball, is what exactly is being said in those, those interactions. So,
well, and look, like it feels like Edwards is like a fun leader, right? Is like a personality, as a guy that really, has taken control of that locker room and that entire organization. So, he's going to be really fun to watch in that regard. I'm really, really excited to watch how he kind of continues to grow and mature in that way. Look, I think that they keep LeBron is where I'm at. I'm just throwing things out there because I do find how the Lakers build this thing long-term very interesting. And I do find like a bit of a two timelines thing happening right now where we all kind of understand that it's Luka's team long-term now, especially given how well he's played to start the year. And, how does LeBron kind of deal with that, and how happy are the Lakers with that? What is that ecosystem going to kind of look like here for the rest of the year is really interesting. But hey, the Lakers are 3-2. LeBron has not played in any of those games. Luka has missed 3 of those games, right? So, we're now sitting here at a circumstance where I think this is a fairly dangerous team, although I want to see kind of more of where they are, kind of heading down these next couple months. Like they have a pretty wide variance to me moving forward.
Yep.
Okay. Bryce, tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on.
Yeah, at Motor City Hoops on Twitter, on Blue Sky. Got the Substack going over there. So if your favorite team plays the Pistons, I have notes over that game. I did my first video breakdown for that Substack, a Cade Cunningham defensive breakdown. This might interest some fans. I really wanted to highlight what makes Cade a two-way player, in my opinion. We always talk about his offense, but I think Cade makes some real impact on the defensive end. You can check that out for free on the Motor City Hoops Substack. Of course, contributing at the Game Theory Substack, which you should absolutely subscribe to as well. Pistons Pulse Podcast, and then, of course, right here, Game Theory Podcast with the Sam Vecenie.
Go to the Game Theory Substack channel, gametheorysamv.substack.com, gametheorysamv.substack.com. You will be able to find all those breakdowns that Bryce and I do for you guys. It's really fun. It's, $6 a month. It's not all that expensive. And we have been far exceeding what we told you guys was going to be the content per month. So please go hit the subscribe button. And by the way, college basketball starts tomorrow, Bryce. Or not tomorrow, Monday, I guess. Yep. I know very early on we have Arizona, Florida. You better believe I will have something from that game because those Arizona prospects are fascinating. The Florida guys obviously are back there with Condon and Hauk. Like, that's going to be a beautiful, beautiful basketball game. Champions Classic's going to be great. We have so much fun hoops forthcoming. Draft or NBA, gametheorysamv.substack.com. Go subscribe to The Athletic as well. Keep me employed over there. We'll be back on Sunday with some basketball. I know that. Might do a little bit of just like preseason NBA draft stuff. We've kind of kept that to a minimum so far and kept that over on the Substack channel, but we might just do like a little half episode of NBA draft stuff while also talking about the NBA, depending on what happens here. Keep it locked. We will be back with more on Sunday, going into Monday. We appreciate all of you immensely. I do feel a bit like I'm missing something, like we don't have the live reaction of the commenters anymore to give us some juice and give us some things to talk about, right? But it just is better for the algorithm to do this as a released episode. So we appreciate you all. Thank you all for listening. Until next time, we'll talk soon. Bye.